Looking around the room, I couldn't help but smile. Jerry deserved this happiness. He had had a few tough years. I was surprised that I was even here. I called him when I received the invitation. Are you sure? He even laughed. Yes, I'm sure. After all, if it weren't for you, I would never have met Anna. I owe you. If someone else had been in your place, I would be dead or in prison right now. You helped me when the most natural thing in the world would have been to turn away. So I went to his wedding. I even sat at the head table, even though he wasn't part of the ceremony. His new wife hugged me when we met and whispered in my ear. He told me your story, but I wanted to hear it from you. I've never heard anything like it. I smiled as I looked at them. He was 42, she was 46, but they acted like teenagers. I wished them all the best. I was dancing with the bride when I saw her. I just froze. Anna looked back in confusion and followed my gaze. I tried to pull away, but she squeezed my hand like a vice. Calm down. Please don't ruin my wedding. I exhaled loudly, trying to collect my thoughts. What is she doing here? Does Jerry know? If he doesn't, he's going to ruin everything. He does. He invited her himself. He says he did it for you. Calm down and let's finish the dance. We finished. I was about to leave, but Jerry was waiting at the table. I looked him straight in the eye. I can't believe you invited your ex-wife to your wedding. What were you thinking? He shook his head, smiling slightly. I didn't invite her to the wedding, just to the reception. And I invited her for your sake. Anyway, tonight you're going to sit down and talk to her, even if it's just for a few minutes. I don't want you to do it for me. I want you to do it for yourself and for her. Neither of you will ever get over this if you don't. But I have to tell you, son, she really loves you. I sat there thinking and agonizing. Jerry and Anna took turns staying with me so I wouldn't leave. I must have been annoying them with my whining until Anna shouted, "Shut up, please! For a man who went to war, you're a weakling when it comes to her. Pull yourself together, talk to her, get it over with. Then leave if you want to. You're letting us all down. And I don't want my memories of this evening to be of me babysitting a whiner pretending to be a strong man." And then I realized she was right. She also gave me 4 very strong drinks, and she did it pretty quickly. It was at that moment that she appeared next to me with tears in her eyes and her hand outstretched. Will you dance with me? Please? I could have acted like a jerk and yelled at her. I could have sat there and ignored her. I could have gotten up and left, but I took her hand. We stepped onto the dance floor, her painfully familiar body pressed against mine, and we slowly spun around to the song the band was playing. I felt her sway slightly and looked down to see tears falling onto my jacket. I started to pull away, trying to say something. She put her hand over my lips. Please don't say anything. Just hold me, and let me pretend, just for a moment, that you still love me. That was the essence of my problem. I really did still love her. And we moved slowly across the dance floor, lost in our memories and thoughts. I went through all the women I had ever loved, including her, and thought about why she had to be the one. The only one. The one I wanted. The one I was going to spend the rest of my life with, only to find out she was never mine. That's why it hurt so much. I held her and I let the memories continue. I saw it coming, I just couldn't believe it. He was about 170, 175 cm tall and weighed less than 50 kg. He was about 40. I was 31, 188 cm tall, weighing 95 kg, mostly muscle. He lunged at me and his 2 friends tried to hold him back. I felt pretty good. It was Thursday. I had just gotten paid, and my girlfriend was supposed to meet me for drinks and dinner, and then dessert. I got up early, had a couple of beers while I waited, and chatted with my friends. I didn't know him, never seen him before in my life. He stood right in front of me. I wondered what he wanted when I saw him move his hand. It started moving somewhere around his knees and gained momentum as he moved. I saw his hand clench into a fist. The movement was so slow that I realized he had probably never clenched his fist before. I remember thinking that whatever he was hitting must be soft. Otherwise, he would hurt his hand when he hit me in the eye. I was so absorbed in watching that I didn't even think to defend myself. I fell, and he started trying to kick me. I hadn't been in the sandbox long enough for him to slip out of my guard, but not long enough for instinct and training to kick in. I rolled over, grabbed his leg, pulled him down to the ground next to me, and quickly put him in a submissive position. His 2 friends tried to intervene, but they were outnumbered and armed, so they called the bartender for help in pulling me off him. My cousin was the bartender and owner of the establishment, and he saw the dirty blow. but just kept polishing the glass he was holding. I caught my breath and lunged at him. What's wrong with you, man? Are you trying to get yourself killed by attacking strangers who are half your size and twice your weight? I could tie you up in a knot and send you home to your wife with bruises and bumps all over your body. He continued to resist. Let me go, you bastard. You need to learn how to entertain married women. I stared at him, wondering if he was high or just delirious. Pushing him away, I jumped to my feet. Sir, I did not trespass on private property. But if you come near me, I guarantee you pain. Do you understand me? Apparently, he didn't, because he jumped up with a yell and swung at me. I hit him with my fist and he fell like a rag doll and stayed on the ground. I looked at his friends. Get him out of here. And I think I can speak for the management when I say he'd be better off drinking somewhere else. And tell him that attacking young, strong, angry strangers is a surefire way to not live to see old age. They wanted to argue, but the bartender cut them off. Eventually, they left, and we laughed for a few minutes until my girlfriend showed up. She saw the bruise starting to form and went into mother mode. What happened, dear? I joked. Some guy came up and accused me of sleeping with his wife. He hit me before I could react. Sad, really. He was over 40, short, and couldn't fight. But he had nerves. If some guy is flirting with his wife, he'd better watch out. As I recounted the episode, her face grew paler and paler. I noticed this and tried to calm her down. Calm down, dear, I'm fine. But if you want to kiss him to make up for it, I don't mind. She immediately covered my face with light kisses and then pulled away with a smile. There you go. Did Mum sort everything out? No evil old man would dare hit my sweetheart. He must be very strong to attack you. Didn't he notice your beautiful muscles? She cooed, stroking my biceps. Later, I found out that she just wanted me to describe him again. He was older than me, short, with a small belly. He couldn't fight, but he was very arrogant. If his wife is cheating on him, then if he finds that guy, things could end very badly. Melody fell silent again, then apologized and went to the bathroom, saying she felt sick. My cousin Bob, the bartender, heard almost the entire conversation. You know, there are always quiet people like that. He was probably living his version of the American dream, happy as a clam. And then he found out his wife was a whore. Those are the ones to watch out for. The ones who can kill you in a fit of rage. I've seen it happen 100 times, if not more. I hope you know enough about him to stay away from him. I nodded in complete agreement. I hope he finds that bastard and kicks his ass. I've seen a few people quit the service after getting letters from Dear John. But still, he'd better find out all the facts and be careful. He's not much of a fighter. Melody returned, looking sad. I'm sorry, dear. The hospital called. There's been a serious accident on the motorway, and they're short-staffed. They asked me to go in. I'll call you tomorrow if I'm not too tired. I love you. She kissed me on the cheek and left. This had happened before, as she was a nurse in the trauma unit at the local hospital. Fortunately for me, she worked 12-hour shifts during the first half of the week, so she was free from Thursday to Saturday. I, on the other hand, worked outside the city, and a lot. No, I don't have a high-paying executive job where I fly around the country solving problems for megacorporations or saving the world for the government. I lay bricks. Yes, bricks. Big bricks, you know? My father was exactly the kind of person I just described. He flew around the country and sometimes around the world, making huge amounts of money for his company. He was hardly ever home, so my mother raised me and my sister pretty much on her own. And in my opinion, she did a damn good job of it. When I was 12, my father decided he didn't need a middle-aged, middle-class housewife and traded her in for a younger model. She was devastated, and my grandfather, who never liked him, was furious. My father tried to speed up the divorce by taking away my grandfather's health insurance. My grandfather stepped in, spent his own money, found her the second-best divorce lawyer in the state, only because the first one was too busy, and completely destroyed him. My father fought until he threatened to sue his company for breach of the moral code. His new woman had been his assistant for some time. When he saw his fast-track career in jeopardy, he crumpled like a cheap tent, and my mum left smelling of roses, albeit with a broken heart. Dad moved across the country, and we hardly saw each other until he came to my high school graduation and offered to pay for me to attend one of the best colleges on the West Coast if I agreed to move. I politely declined until he insisted, at which point I cursed loudly and physically kicked him out of our house. I haven't seen him since. My mum married a decent man who loved her very much. Surprisingly, she got pregnant. And at 15, I had a brother. I admired this man and my sister simply adored him. He offered to help pay for college, but didn't insist when I decided not to continue my education. Instead, I became part of the big green machine and spent 4 years in the service, a year in each of the two deserts. By the time I was discharged, I had a better understanding of how the world worked, and I enrolled in school on a military scholarship while working for my grandfather. You guessed it, he was a master mason and had been doing it all his life. Even at 62, he had a body that 30-year-old gym rats would kill for. My father couldn't leave quickly enough, but I was old enough to lift stones. My father would pile them up in the yard of his house and reward me according to how quickly I lifted them. Sometimes I didn't lift them the way he wanted, but by the time I was 13, they always ended up on top. At 14, I became his apprentice, working in the summer and after school if he was working close to home. There was no shortage of stones in Afghanistan, especially in the unit I served in, and I entertained myself by building walls, especially around our positions. When a wall I built saved several lives, including our captains, the guys soon became my assistants. We always had the strongest positions in the area. The Afghans were excellent masons, and I learned their methods, sometimes working with them on the construction of schools and hospitals. I learned everything I could from them. As soon as I got out of prison, my father took me into his business. Soon I was doing all the work for him, usually just me and one or two assistants. He usually took on the big jobs himself. One of the worst days of my life came when he died, the victim of a child who was texting. He was crossing the road and was hit by Pope's car. It was estimated that he was traveling at 65 miles per hour at the time of the collision. Pope was in his 66-year-old Ford pickup truck without airbags or headrests. His neck was broken, and doctors said he most likely died at the scene. Regardless of how he died, he passed away at the age of 66. He was planning to retire as soon as he finished his current job. He and his grandmother had bought an SUV to travel around the country. With retirement approaching, he had gradually transferred the company to my name so that I wouldn't have to deal with a lot of paperwork. I was 27 years old. Bricklaying is an exciting profession. A master bricklayer can earn a lot of money depending on the type of work. My company specialized in the construction and renovation of plasterboard walls, walls built without mortar that hold their shape thanks to the size and placement of the bricks. This skill is not easy to master, and we were the best in the region. Before he died, my grandfather negotiated a contract with the state university system to repair the walls on 5 of its oldest campuses. Some of them were over 300 years old and had fallen into disrepair or collapsed completely. I had a crew of 2 master masons and 3 or 4 apprentices at each site. We paid the apprentices $15 to $20 an hour, depending on their skill level. As their skills improved, their wages increased. Of course, it took years to become a master, but as I said, the pay was excellent. There were doubts as to whether I could fulfill the contract, but I convinced them to trust me. Listen, the Pope was practically an administrator before he died. The same bricklayers with the same skills are still working. I guarantee that the work will not suffer. In the end, they let us go, mainly because the company was registered in my name by then, and they had never complained before and knew it would be difficult to find a replacement for us. Bricklayers are rare specialists, and really good bricklayers are even rarer. I hated being a manager without being able to lay bricks regularly. I solved this problem by hiring my sister Becky. She was pretty good at laying bricks and could spot shoddy work a mile away. She had just graduated with a business degree, and good jobs were hard to come by, so she took the job to gain experience, if nothing else. We still had to hold meetings and check the books, which we planned to do together with our weekly family dinners. My stepfather, Jerry, was an accountant, and Dad loved him so much that he gave him our business when he married my mother. My grandmother was always around, and she and my mother would discuss issues based on their years of experience. My younger brother, Jerry Jr., was 15, and I had already promised him a job for the following summer. He was going to start at the bottom, grinding stone like all apprentices. He had an amazing talent for math, and I was sure he wouldn't become a mason. But that didn't matter. Accountants were valuable people too. I was 30 when I met Melody. One Thursday evening, she came to the bar with her friends. We both felt an instant attraction, almost a passion at first sight. Billy, my cousin and the bar owner, played with live bands on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights. It was a working-class joint, so they played mostly country. And some of the songs were even good. I watched Mel dance a few quick numbers and admired her grace. She came up to the bar just as the band started playing a slow song and ordered a round for her table. When the music started, she took my hand. I don't want to miss such a good, slow song, and yes, I'd love to dance with you. Thanks for asking. I was so surprised that I couldn't even speak, and I stumbled after her while my friends laughed. A slow dance with Mel was a must for graduates to show how it should be done. Of course, if that had happened, there would have been a lot of wet spots on many jeans. This woman just pressed herself against you, leaving no space between you, moving with you so gracefully that it felt like you were alone, except for the extremely pleasant warmth and sensation of her body. I think I fell in love with her before the first song was over. She was tall, about 175 centimeters, and with her 12-centimeter heels, she could look me in the eyes. When the dance ended, she didn't let go of my hand and pulled me to her table. I met her friends, but I still can't remember their names. The band stopped playing 45 minutes before closing time, and we were able to talk without shouting over the music. Her friends were tired of waiting and urged her to go home. "Damn it, Mel, kiss him. You know you want to, get his number and let's go," one of her friends said, and she listened. You never forget your first kiss with someone you like. "Will you be here tomorrow?" she asked, pulling away. I just nodded. "Meet me at the entrance at 7:30. Take me to a nice place for dinner. Bye." And she left, leaving the scent of her perfume on my body and the taste of her lips on mine. I got up and went back to the bar where a damn attractive guy was waiting for me. "Not bad, Bandit," Billy laughed. "If she'd handed you a hoop, you would have jumped through it." I got that nickname because my real name is Jesse James. My father chose it, saying he liked the image of Robin Hood. I once found some information about him. Many historians consider him the first sociopathic criminal in American history. I didn't care why. I didn't care how. All I cared about was that she chose me. But I was incredibly cautious. You see, I didn't have the best experience with women. After school, I had two serious relationships. The first one ended when she told me straight out that she wasn't going to wait for me while I was in the army. "I'm 19. You might not come back. I don't want an uncertain future. I really like you. And if I'm free when you get back, maybe we can start over." I didn't like it, but I understood. We met again when I came home, but we had both changed, and the magic was gone. We realized that pretty quickly and parted friends. I met the second one in college. She was the star of the volleyball team. Tall, muscular, attractive, and the most arrogant woman I had ever met. Someone once told her she was special, and she believed it for the rest of her life. The volleyball team won the national championship several times at a school where the basketball and football teams were terrible. That made her queen, and the staff and students obediently carried out her every whim. Everyone in town knew who Cindy Tolliver was. I wasn't a troll either. Thanks to my military training and work, I was as strong as the rocks I lay on. And I even had impressive abs, although I never took my shirt off except at work. I had sandy hair with a red tint from frequent exposure to the sun and blue eyes that were so pale they appeared gray. I was also permanently tanned from spending so much time outdoors. The beauty of plasterboard construction is that you can do it even in cold weather because you don't have to worry about the mortar drying out, so we worked all year round unless the ground froze so much that we couldn't lay the stones properly. I did most of my training in winter. Cindy was so used to always getting what she wanted that she was shocked when someone said no to her. As it happened, I was the one who said no that day. We were at a popular grill bar near campus. The food was good, the prices were reasonable, and it was very crowded during happy hour. I was sitting alone at a large table. Everyone else was busy socializing. The food was really good, and I had just finished my excellent cheeseburger when she and her entourage entered the room. 2 other women and 4 guys. Looking around, she quickly discovered that the only free table belonged to me. She approached me. "My friends and I are looking for a table, and yours is the only one available. Could you give it to us so we can sit down?" She smiled falsely, thinking I would gladly leave to please her. "Yes," I said with a smile, continuing to eat. She decided that yes meant I would leave, but yes meant I didn't mind, so I continued eating. A minute or two later, she snorted. "Are you going to leave or what? We're waiting. When I'm done or a smaller table becomes available, I'll be happy to give it to you. Or, since I have so much room, you can all join me." "You can go stand at the bar," one of the guys said loudly, puffing out his lips slightly. I grinned. Dude, don't you know that standing while you eat makes your legs bigger? It's hard enough for me to find a normal 14-year-old girl. Don't make it a tragedy. Maybe I should make you leave, he growled. He was about 175 centimeters tall and in pretty good shape, but his posture and mannerisms suggested that he didn't know how to do anything. I looked at him for a minute, then took a big sip of tea, ate a few French fries, and sighed. Okay, I see three possible outcomes. First, you kick my ass, and people think you're an idiot because you got into a fight with someone who wasn't bothering anyone. Second, I beat you half to death in front of your friends, and everyone thinks you deserved it because you're a first-class asshole. Or third, you can leave me alone while I finish the last two pieces, and I'll leave. Why don't you let your friends sit while you go order drinks? I'll be gone by then. He puffed out his cheeks. Cindy watched the scene in surprise. She raised her hand. Stop it, Brian. I think this could end badly for you if you don't stop. Do as he says. Order us drinks. We'll be right here if this gentleman wants to share. I'd had enough. I stood up, pushing my chair closer to the girl sitting next to me. Please sit down at the table. I'm done anyway. Have a good evening. I reached for the speaker next to the table and pulled out my cane. My leg was in a cast, the result of an overly enthusiastic student's attempt to show off in front of me. He ended up dropping a 30-kilogram stone on my leg and breaking two bones. That's why I needed a table. I couldn't stand at the bar. Her eyes widened. Please stay. We'll buy you a beer. Thanks for the offer, but I have to decline. I can't drink right now because it might affect my medication. Brian came back, saw the cast, and grinned. I could tell he thought I'd be easy prey. Sure enough, he followed me to the car. You think the cast will save you? It'll just make it easier. I've got you. I'd heard enough, so I turned, wrinkling my nose at the sudden movement, and jabbed the end of my cane right into the soft fabric above his groin. He fell like a stone, making a sound like a balloon deflating, and wet himself. I turned back to my car. Don't get up until I'm out of the parking lot. If you do, I'll think you're trying to hurt me, and you won't like my response. Grow up before someone less patient than me catches you. When I got out, he was still lying on the ground. I didn't know it, but Cindy and her friends had noticed he was missing and came out to rescue me. They managed to witness our little conversation. They picked Brian up, dusted him off, and Cindy started pestering everyone in the restaurant to find out about me. It didn't take Cindy long to find me. I wasn't very lucky because I was mostly taking evening classes and didn't socialize with other students. I was older, much more mature and focused on serving than on student life. She finally found me by tracking me down at a grill bar. When I walked in, she stood up and pointed to an empty chair. Great, you're here. I saved you a seat. She pointed to the only empty chair at the table. I looked around the room. There were other empty seats, and I was about to head for one of them when she put her hand on my shoulder. Please, she said, not often using that word. Just for a minute, we owe you an apology. Brian was an idiot, and that's one of the many reasons he's no longer friends with us. I thought I heard sincerity in her voice, so I sat down. To my surprise, I discovered that she and her friends were not stupid. One of them was studying political science and had received a lucrative offer from a lobbying group after graduation. Another was preparing to attend Yale University. And the third was planning to work for her father after earning an MBA from the Wharton School of Business. Cindy specialized in sports psychology, and that degree would come in handy after her career as a professional volleyball player. It was fun to watch them fend off admirers discussing the profitability of new sports in the context of their future, and sometimes they asked for my opinion. If I could, I answered their questions. If I couldn't, I shared what I knew. I told them I was too busy with my business to follow many sports, especially new extreme ones. This prompted questions about my work, especially from the business professional. Wow, you're talking about a niche market. Is it well paid? What's your business plan? How much of the market do you control? I raised my hand to stop her. It's excellent money. I may never be rich, but I'll live very comfortably. My advertising is spread by word of mouth, and my services are not available to everyone. I mainly work with properties worth millions of dollars. I currently have 2 large projects for developers, as well as a contract to restore a state college building. I have been working with my current team for almost 2 years. Tomorrow, I'm flying out to negotiate with colleges in 2 states to offer them my services. With my current team, that will add another 2 or 3 years of work. I'll probably interview and hire local masons to get the project started on time. Even when the economy went downhill, and I usually work for wealthy people, I still had a steady job. Everyone leaned back in their chairs, stunned. Becca, who was studying business, spoke first. I'm writing a paper on the viability of niche businesses. I think I'll dig through everything I already have and write a paper just about your business, if you'll let me. Please? I thought for a second and smiled. Sure, it'll be free advertising for the business. Just keep in mind that most of the work is done on site, so you may have to travel if you want to do an in-depth analysis. She smiled. No problem. One of the perks of having rich parents is free money, especially if I tell them it's for school. Cindy frowned at the thought of having to follow me around, but wisely kept her mouth shut at the time. I later found out that she had tried to talk her out of it. Becca refused. It's a good opportunity, Sin. The report will look good on my application to Wharton, and I don't plan on dating him. She smirked slightly before continuing. Well, what he plans on doing is another matter entirely, let's face it. She was a beautiful, determined woman who was used to getting what she wanted. I was more laid back and non-confrontational, inclined to agree if it didn't conflict with my values. The inevitable happened and we grew close, embarking on a fairly intense 2-year relationship. I led her on, knowing from the start that the only way to keep things fair was to keep her off balance. If she felt too comfortable, her "it's my way or no way" attitude would come out. I explained it to her. You may be queen at school, but to me you're just another girl. You're beautiful, and I like you, but I'll never be your lover. I see a serious relationship as a partnership with pros and cons, where each person has strengths and weaknesses. In an ideal relationship, weaknesses and strengths should balance each other out, and each partner should take the initiative from time to time. Do you understand? She smiled at me, half smiling. Oh, I understand. And I intend to be your queen before we part, just as you will be my king. Those were the words I wanted to hear. And for 18 months I had been climbing a mountain, only to discover that there was nothing but a cliff at the top. I think she was ready to sleep with him on the first date if I had pushed her, but I made her wait, which was part of my plan to throw her off balance. We moved on to rough sex, but I always stopped, which really upset her. Eventually, she got tired of it. One night when I pushed her to the limit and stopped, she exploded. Damn it, Bandit. It's time to grow up and take care of me. What's the matter? You think I'm not good enough for you? I can give you references. Or are you afraid you can't satisfy me? Don't worry, baby. I'm willing to teach you everything I love. Judging by the look on her face, she realized she had gone too far. She tried to apologize, but I cut her off. Don't worry, Sin. Several of your acquaintances have already told me in detail how experienced you are. I'm not as experienced as you, but I've never had any complaints. It's very kind of you to offer to share your experience with me. Like volleyball, the more you practice, the better you get. And we already know how good you are at this. I paused, thinking that maybe I had gone too far with the experience comment. And despite your kind offer, I think I'll pass. Good night. As I left her flat, she begged and pleaded, even trying to physically stop me. She was a large girl, strong, but I had spent too many years lifting rocks and easily broke free from her grip. I didn't see her for 2 weeks, despite her calls, text messages, and emails. It just so happened that I had a deadline and had to work over the weekend. Her last 2 letters were quite unpleasant. She wasn't used to rejection and didn't handle it well. When I returned to the city, I met Becca, a business school student, and Carol, her friend from law school, at a grill bar. I was sitting alone when they approached my table. Carol smiled broadly. So is it true that Cindy dumped you? Becca noticed me tense up and giggled. Look at his face, Carol. I bet he's the one who dumped her. Right, Jess? I put on an indifferent expression. I'd say it was a mutual breakup. Let's just say we had different ideas about relationships. She said. I bet she told you to jump. And you explained that you don't like basketball. Whatever it was, it really upset her. Ever since you disappeared, she's been acting like a hysterical bitch. The coach threatened to bench her if she didn't get her head out of her ass. Oh well, let her talk to the devil. At that moment, Cindy walked in with a basketball in her hands. She looked at us sitting together and exploded. Throwing the ball on the floor, she rushed towards us. He followed her, trying to take her hand. She snapped at him again. Let go of me. What don't you understand about just friends? From the look on his face, I could tell she didn't mean it. What the hell, Sin? Why are you so fixated on this redneck? He was stupid enough to dump you once. He's a loser. I bet he'll never be able to provide for you the way you deserve, the way I can. Becca almost fell off her chair laughing. What did Bugs Bunny say? Oh yeah, what a jerk. You haven't even finished school yet, and your chances of becoming a professional are slim at best. Depending on your major, it could be years before you start making decent money. Jesse has owned his own successful business for many years. His income is in the six figures, and that number grows every year. Not bad for a country bumpkin, huh, Dustin? He was about to respond indignantly, but Carol interrupted. Dustin, whatever you think, stop it. Look at him. He didn't get those muscles at the gym. Plus, he's been in combat twice, so he knows how to hurt and kill a man. He could probably tear you to pieces and put you back together again, but 30 centimeters shorter. Maybe you want to sit at the bar while he and Sin talk? Come on, Becca and I will keep you company. They ushered him out pitifully. Sin sat down and just stared at me for about 3 minutes before speaking. The worst thing is when people spoil you, it works. I know I'm arrogant and controlling. I know I can't stand being told no, but Jess, I'm a good person. I'm in college, for God's sake. You know I can study. Why don't we start over? I leaned back in my chair and thought about it. She was one of those people who didn't know how to appreciate silence, so she started again. I regret that night. I was brainwashed into believing that I was a great gift and that I should be appreciated. I know I'm just a girl, a pretty girl, but there are lots of girls who are prettier, slimmer, smarter, and more understanding. Like Becca and Carol. They don't hide the fact that if it doesn't work out between us, they're interested. But they'll never love you the way I do, Jess. They'll never melt the way I do when you touch them. If you want to wait, I'll wait. You set the pace. I'll follow you. 4 months later, she wanted to see how things were going. That year, they didn't win the national competition. She blamed me, saying that I was distracting her with extra training and sapping her energy. She was just finishing school and had received a very tempting offer to join an experienced professional in beach volleyball. The salary was good, but she explained that she could earn more money through advertising, personal appearances, and television. She wanted to work for 3 years to save enough money to continue her studies and earn a doctorate. After several long conversations, we decided that it would be wisest to get married. She fainted when I proposed and gave her the ring. We decided to postpone the wedding until she finished her first year of work. I hoped that by then she would get tired of it all and leave to focus on her studies. I could afford to support her. She came from a broken home, and her father couldn't help her. We spent a wonderful month together. She traveled with me from job to job, getting to know the cities we visited while I worked, and then focused on exhausting me and draining my energy every night. For the first time in my life, I struggled to lift heavy stones. My colleagues laughed and said that if I didn't work out after work, I would regain my strength. That's what I pay you for, idiots, to lift heavy things. There's no way I'm giving up my workout routine. Now, bring me those stones. When she left, I felt defeated. She clung to me and cried like a child. I almost had to drag her away from me so she could get on the plane. It was very difficult because I didn't want her to leave. If you don't like it, dear, come back home. You know I have money for your education, so you don't have to worry about that. She sighed and hugged me even tighter. All my life, other people have taken care of me. My father, then school, now you. I want to prove at least once in my life that I can take care of myself. Besides, I signed a contract. I have to perform this season. I didn't like it, but I understood. The first year was tough for both of us. She performed very well. She and her partner were at the top of the rankings. They won more and more. Their money grew. I watched it on TV, and I didn't like the thongs they wore at all. It's in the contract, dear. The producer offered us an advertising campaign because of our popularity. It's good money, dear. You don't mind, do you? How could I not support her? It took time away from us, but we managed somehow. It got to the point where we only saw each other once a month for 3 days. I counted the days until the end of the season. She would come home and we would try to make up for lost time. My mom hinted at grandchildren, and it seemed like my sister and I had something in common. We both loved girls. That explained why she spent so much time with us. She wanted to start a relationship with one of Cindy's friends. She had several friends on the team. Becky once managed to start an affair with one of them, but they broke up because neither of them wanted to commit to a relationship. Eventually, she found a nice, quiet girl, and they got married. In addition to pestering me, my mom, having come to terms with Becky's choice, began hinting to her that they should adopt a child or try artificial insemination. They considered this option. After 4 glorious weeks, she became sad. I endured it as long as I could before talking to her. What's going on, Sin? Don't try to get away from me. We're going to sit here until you tell me. She paused, then said, I signed a contract for another season. They doubled our salary and the exhibition is worth much more. I'm sorry, dear, but I have to do this for myself. Please don't be angry. I wasn't angry, I was furious. We argued almost until she left. Why can't you be more generous? Just this year, I swear. I supported you. All last year. You made promises, remember? That's all your word is worth when it comes to money. That wasn't the word. She burst into tears. I listened half-heartedly, and after 10 minutes she realized I wasn't listening to every word she said. She stopped immediately. In a quiet voice, she repeated her attempt. I think I deserve it. Let's do this. I'll write a contract. If I don't quit next year, the marriage is over. Please, Bandit, this is really important to me. I just looked at her. You don't need a contract. If you don't quit next year, I'm leaving. Got it? She paled a little and made a bunch of promises. Promises she didn't keep. At the beginning of the next year, things went even better for them. Her partner Jen called and thanked me for letting her play. This is my last year on tour, so if she doesn't find a new partner, she'll leave too. I plan to teach. I've already found a job as a maths teacher and volleyball coach in a small town in California. I've always loved relaxing on the beach. Maybe I'll find a nice quiet guy and get married again. But if we had a relationship like yours, maybe I'd still be married. I didn't know she was divorced. I knew she was married and that her husband didn't like her to leave. When Cindy told me about it, I gave her a reproachful look. She got the hint and fell silent. What agreement, Jen? My tone made her hesitate. Well, you know, about your understanding. I let the silence linger and she grew nervous. I'm sorry, I didn't express myself clearly. I didn't mean understanding. I meant your understanding. She's very lucky to have you. I have to go. Watch us on TV. The whole conversation made me feel a little uncomfortable. When she first came home, I asked her about it. Don't worry about it, dear. She's a little confused after the divorce. I think it hurts her more than she wants to admit. Trust me, I won't repeat her mistakes. I love you too much. When I asked what those mistakes were, she got upset. I pressed her, and she finally admitted that she had had an affair with one of the men on the tour, and her husband had found out. I give you my word, dear, I will never hurt you like that. I have too much to lose. She usually called every Monday and Tuesday, but I didn't get a single call from her, even though I called her and left 6 messages. The following week, I responded in kind, not answering any of her 10 calls. The next week, she came home unannounced and furious. After she had said everything she had been holding back, I told her that I had simply done the same as her. We were both furious, but it ended with me telling her to shove her Spanish boyfriend where she wanted. She turned so pale that I thought she was going to faint. By that point, I had reached my limit with her, so I got up and left. 2 days later, she tracked me down at the construction site and begged me on her knees to let her talk to me. She spent 2 days telling me that there was nothing between us and that if I was so unhappy, she would never put up another ad. She swore to everyone she could that she would leave for good when the season ended. Looking back, it's clear she was reading from a script, but they were the right words at the right time, and I believed her. She did 2 more shoots, both with the golfer. It all started when I needed tires for my truck, so I drove to the dealer in the town where I worked. It took over an hour, so I went across the road for lunch. After lunch, I had to wait another 10 minutes for them to finish, so I started flipping through magazines without paying much attention to them. My attention was caught by a golf magazine from 2 weeks ago. It had a profile of Juan Pablo, where he was pictured on and off the course. In the photo that caught my eye, he was sitting in the stands watching a beach volleyball game and then kissing one of the winners. The article quoted him as saying that he went to all the competitions his schedule allowed to support his girlfriend. You guessed it, that girlfriend was Cindy. I was furious. I deliberately ignored her calls and flew to her next match. She and Jen always shared a room, and I arrived there around 7. Jen opened the door and turned pale when she saw me. Cindy wasn't there. I called her in front of Jen. She was happy to hear from me. Hi, sweetie. Where have you been? I was starting to worry that you'd replaced me. I could never replace you, darling. Have you had dinner? I heard noise in the background. Yes, Jen and I are at the hotel restaurant. The food is very good. I managed to chat with her for a few minutes while Jen turned paler and paler. I hung up and smiled at Jen. Jen, did I ever tell you that I was in the army? I spent 2 years in the desert killing people whenever I could. I won't kill you, Jen. But if you don't tell me the truth, I'll break your wrists and knees. You'll live, but you'll never walk or use your hands again. No one needs a disabled volleyball player or coach. I'll definitely go to prison, but not before I find Cindy and her Latin lover. The choice is yours, but if you want to take the easy way out, now is the time. Would I have done it? No, but at that moment I was very angry. Judging by the surprised look on her face, Jen must have thought I was serious. She was talking so fast that I had to ask her to slow down. It all started at the end of the first season. Not with him, but with another volleyball player. She said it wasn't love, just a way to relieve tension. She admitted that she had done the same thing before, until her husband caught her. She begged, but it was too late and he divorced her. At her first photo shoot, Cindy took a liking to Juan, but apparently the touch of his skin was too much of a temptation. She told me you didn't mind, Jess. She said you do the same thing. She said you had an agreement. She could satisfy her desires, and you did the same when you were away on business trips. She also told me it would all end when the season was over, and she kept talking about how happy she would be when you got married. She lowered her head, saying that she now realized there had been no agreement. Where is she now? Her eyes grew huge. Please, Jess, let me call her and bring her back here so you can talk. I'm sure you can work it out. Tell me right now, or you'll have a broken elbow to add to your injuries. I stood up and she recoiled in horror. They're at his hotel across town. He's playing in a tournament. She gave me the room number, saying they might not be there. They might be at a dance. I grabbed her by the throat, pinned her against the wall, and pressed my face against hers. If you warn her, I'll come back and I'll be even angrier. Do we understand each other? In the end, she wet herself and nodded so quickly that I was afraid she would hurt herself. I stood in the lobby and watched them walk arm in arm into the room and head for the lift. I had the room number and could have waited, but I knew what they were doing, so I saw no point in waiting for them to get undressed. I gave them 3 minutes and kicked the door open. She turned around, recognized me, and almost fainted. He was so drunk that he tried to act macho. I quickly stopped him by turning him towards me and blocking his arm. Don't move, you bastard. If you resist, it'll be bad. Got it? Good. Now tell me how long you've been having fun, and if you lie, I'll find out. 3, maybe 4 months. It doesn't mean anything, man. Calm down. So you had fun for all this time knowing she was engaged and thought it was okay? I read that you're engaged, and she's waiting for you in Spain. I wonder if she'll think it doesn't mean anything. Let's call her and find out. He was begging now. Cindy put the bed between us and put her dress back on. She still didn't say a word. I realized I didn't have much time. There were people in the hallway, and I wasn't known for my calmness. I let her go, and he stood up. I hit him. Try swinging that bat now, you bastard. He collapsed on the floor, and I looked at Cindy. Leave the ring. I don't need it anymore. Come back when you've got the courage, and I'll pack your things. Don't try to talk. We have nothing to say to each other, nothing? I walked out the door, took the lift down, and called the manager. I apologized. Said I'd always been clumsy and had fallen through the door of room 408. Explained that my girlfriend and I were going to visit her, and he was standing behind the door and could have been hurt. I gave him my credit card number, saying I'd be happy to pay for the repairs and any medical expenses. He wanted me to stay, but I said I really had to fly and he could call if he needed to. He could just ask my friend for my number. I found out the next day when I watched a short clip of the tournament he was participating in. The commentators made a big deal out of it, saying that he might make it through the rest of the season and explaining that it was just an accident between friends. Rumors immediately started circulating in both sports, and he used his injury as an excuse to fly home. The following season, the commentators discussed his new bachelor status. I didn't say a word to anyone, but many other golfers and commentators were staying at the same hotel, and it was impossible to keep it a secret. Jen and Cindy played poorly in the next 3 matches, losing each time in a row. At the end of the season, Jen did leave the sport, and Cindy signed with a new partner who had just finished college. She played 4 more seasons before leaving the sport and getting her PhD. For about 3 months, she tried to get me to talk to her, telling my mom that she would fly out and we would talk, even if she had to force me. My mom laughed and sent her away, but she never came. That was it. Not very original, probably happens hundreds of thousands of times a day all over the world. But my world fell apart. For 2 years, I had a deep distrust of women. Then I met Melody, and the light came back into my life. As I mentioned, she was a nurse in the trauma unit at a local hospital. She worked 12-hour shifts on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, and every other week she was on call. I thought it was fate because all she did was work, and I usually left town for at least 4 days, so our free time usually coincided. We started slowly, with a few dinners at restaurants, dancing at better clubs than the bar where we met. We saw a few movies with girls, went to a museum, a baseball game. She was up for anything. But again, it was only a matter of time before I looked into her big, beautiful eyes and fell to the ground trying to please her. We never saw each other on the days she worked, although she always called me when she had a break. She lived with 2 other nurses, and they said they had agreed never to bring their boyfriends home. One of us is always at work and the other is usually asleep, so we don't bring guys over to avoid distractions. Besides, last year before we set the rules, one of them stole a guy while the other was asleep. I had to replace them both. So no guys, kid. Rules are rules. We were together almost from the moment I got home from work until she had to leave to get ready for work. I was tired of renting motel rooms, so I put out an ad. I had a lot of friends in my line of work, so when I asked them to look for a house with 3 bedrooms and a big yard, I got a lot of laughs. Finally, someone saw through you, huh? Good for you. It was a pretty common theme. I just smiled and showed them the photo. Then the comments boiled down to, "Lucky you." One interior designer condemned me. "You idiot. Don't you know that in 99% of cases it's the woman who chooses the house? Maybe you should keep her in the loop." I took her advice and, armed with insider information about houses that needed repairs or owners who wanted to get rid of them due to the economic crisis or divorce, I went on a hunt. Under the pretext that I wanted to spend as much time with her as possible and needed a woman's perspective, I took her with me. The first 5 houses didn't impress her, but on our second weekend, we walked into a 4-bedroom house on 3 acres on the outskirts of town. She walked through the house, touched the appliances, and really liked the large kitchen. She liked the layout, with the bedroom in one part of the house away from the rest, which provided privacy. We walked around the property, found a small spring, and she touched some large trees. "What are you thinking about?" Mel looked at me with misty eyes. "Tree houses." The following week, I took some time off work and started the paperwork. I got a very good offer. The process of buying the house had just begun, and the owner was happy to avoid a court battle. That week, he left the house and headed off in an unknown direction. On Friday, we returned to the house. We looked at it one more time. I asked her if she could be happy living there. "I'm sure I'll love it. Why do you ask?" "Because we're buying it on Monday. I need you to pick out some new furniture. Do you mind?" Without waiting for her answer, I got down on one knee. "I hope you like this house. I plan to live here for a long time. A long time with you by my side. I'd like to use 1 or 2 of the bedrooms someday. All you have to do is say yes." I held out the ring to her. It was a traditional, simple ring with a stone on top. She surprised me by fainting onto the kitchen table. Melody quickly came too. There were tears in her eyes. I didn't get the answer I was expecting. "I love you, Jesse, but I can't marry you right now. Please give me some time. I need to do something before I can accept your proposal. Please, I'm begging you, give me 6 months and ask me again. I promise it will be worth the wait if you say yes." It wasn't the answer I expected, and I was terribly disappointed. She tried her best to calm me down, even sending me to a furniture store the next day. She didn't have any preferences, as long as the furniture was sturdy. We bought a California king bed, a sofa, an armchair, and a rocking chair for the living room. I looked at her as she sat down in the rocking chair. She smiled. "This might come in handy in a year or 2. That simple statement filled me with hope. I gave her my credit card and told her to buy whatever she thought we needed. I took Melody with me to introduce her to my family. My mom and Becky loved her right away. My grandmother wasn't as enthusiastic. My younger brother practically drooled over her. And my stepfather just grinned. I took that as a good sign. The following Friday, I arrived and went straight to the new house. She had made a beautiful dining room and furnished the guest room. Her car was parked outside, but I didn't see her. I found her gorgeous and naked on the California king-size bed. She slid off the bed and reached for me. "I wanted to start without you. I want to bless every piece of furniture, every inch of our new home. Next weekend, we'll do the yard." I tried really hard, but over the weekend we only managed to do the bedroom and the dining table. She laughed and said she would take pity on me, and that next week we would do the guest room and the living room. The following weekend, I was sitting in a bar waiting for her, happier than I had ever been in my life, when some guy came in and punched me in the face. When she left, I had a few more drinks with my friends, and early the next morning I went to my new house to wait for the love of my life. As I walked to my car, two shots rang out. The bullets hit the car in two places. However, they were so close that I was scared to death. Instinct kicked in, and I fell and rolled behind an SUV. I heard the guy approaching, shouting and swearing, peering between the cars. I rolled under the SUV, jumped out, and, crouching low, ran to the next row of cars. "Get out of here, you bastard! I'll make sure you never ruin anyone's life again." His voice was shaking with rage, and from his slurred speech, I could tell he was very drunk. I got a good look at him when he passed under a streetlight in the car park. It was the same guy who had hit me, and I realized that it wasn't an accident. He was after me. My stepfather always said, "Never leave a snake alive," so I hid and waited. He was almost level with my hiding place and looking the other way, so I carefully placed my shoe, which had slipped off my foot, behind his back. A slight noise made him flinch, and as soon as he turned away, I was right next to him. I grabbed his hand, which was holding the gun, and pulled it back hard. The pressure made him drop the gun, and then I beat him half to death. Realizing that if I didn't stop I would kill him, I let him go and stood up. He was cold, so I picked him up, threw him into the back of the truck, and drove off, eventually ending up in front of an abandoned shed in the middle of nowhere. He started to come to when I lowered the back door and pulled him out by his legs, listening to his head hit the gravel as he fell. That knocked him out again. He came to when I splashed water from the refrigerator in the back of the truck on his face. He turned his head, and his eyes widened in horror when he realized he couldn't move. I didn't want to kill him. I wanted to scare him to death. A 32? Seriously? That's just going to make people angry. It worked on me. Now I'm going to talk and you're going to listen and nod. When I'm done, you can talk. And it better be something worthwhile, because right now I have a strong urge to put this bullet up your arse. Now it's time to talk. To his credit, he was helpless, but he was still looking at me. "What do you want me to say? That I don't mind you entertaining my wife? That will never happen. Sooner or later you'll stop looking, and I'll get justice. You'd better kill me now." I looked at him. He must have been scared, but he didn't back down. I even admired him. I grabbed him, put him in the back seat, and holding him by the collar began to methodically punch him in the face. "I'm not having fun with anyone's wife. What can I do to make you leave me alone?" The humor in the situation disappeared very quickly. "Back pocket," he sighed. "Take my wallet. Tell her it's not Melody in the photo. If it's not her, I'll apologize, and you can do whatever you want to me." I can't describe what I felt when he said her name. Denial raged in my head as I took out the wallet, already knowing what I would find. It was her, younger, a little thinner, smiling at the camera, posing in a wedding dress with her husband. Sighing, I sat down next to him. He looked satisfied. "Is that her, you bastard? It doesn't matter, I can see it in your face. You really didn't know, did you? How does it feel? I hope you feel as bad as I do." We talked, and 15 minutes later I let him go, took out a bottle of pure rye whiskey I had bought earlier for the bar in my new house, and we continued drinking. I woke up to the sun shining on my face, and as I got up, I saw that he was holding a .32 caliber pistol and looking at me. Fear pierced me when he grinned. He put the gun in the toolbox. "You're right. It's not a very good gun, but I wouldn't want to be shot with one." And we started talking again back in the back seat of the truck. I apologized again and was surprised when he waved me off. I always knew it would be like this. Sooner or later, the age difference and the fact that we liked the same things were bound to come into play. Besides, I'm away every weekend. She had plenty of time to have fun. Well, that explained why she had so much free time. He worked as a long-haul truck driver, specializing in transporting hazardous materials, which were best transported on weekends and at night to avoid traffic. The job paid well, but he was away from home from Thursday to Sunday. "What are you going to do?" He looked at me in surprise. "Divorce her, of course. She's yours now, if you still want her." I drunkenly confessed my proposal to marry her. I shrugged. "How can I trust her? This is the second time this has happened to me. No, it's over between us. It hurts, but I know from experience that it's survivable." I drove him to his car and reminded him not to forget his gun when he got out. "Keep it. I don't need a reminder that it almost got me killed. When he got into his car, I asked him again what he was going to do. You're lucky. You can just walk away. I'll divorce her. It'll be easy. No hard feelings. You go your way and leave me alone. There are no children, so there shouldn't be any problems. If that's the case, get in touch with her. Tell her you're going to accuse her of adultery and I'll be your witness. It might make things easier. He looked up in surprise and slowly held out his hand. I leaned out of the truck window and shook his hand. Sorry, mate, he said, started the truck and drove away. I watched his taillights disappear. Me too, I said into the void, and drove off in the opposite direction. I drove to my grandmother's house, got into the van, and drove away. I wasn't hiding from anyone, but I knew I needed to wait a while before talking to her. Hitting a woman wasn't in my nature, but I didn't mind a verbal beating. I stopped and sent her an email. Melody, I'm not running away, but you really shouldn't be talking to me right now. Don't look for me. I've left town and won't be back until next weekend. I'm going to spend that time thinking about our relationship. You remember what it was based on, don't you? Lies? Call me next weekend. And if I can control my anger, I'll try to listen to everything you have to say. But don't expect me to believe you. She sent me a short reply right away. Thank you for at least agreeing to give me a chance to talk. There was a lot you didn't know about me, and I'd like to tell you a lot. If you don't mind, I'll be at your place at 4 o'clock on Saturday. And Jess, believe it or not, I love you. I thought and thought all week. My boys were starting to understand what was going on, so for the first few days they forgave me for acting like a complete idiot. As Saturday approached, my fear grew. At least she didn't dress up or try to lure me into bed. I didn't let her into the kitchen, made her sit across from me at the kitchen table, which she had spent 2 weeks choosing to make perfect. She started to speak, but I raised my hand. The ground rules. Don't tell me how much you love me. Don't waste our time with a bunch of apologies. Just explain it to me. Why did you go to bars and meet other men when you were married? Do you really think I can go on living, wondering where you are while I'm at work? You can get out of bed with someone else, take a shower, get yourself ready, meet me at home, and drag me into bed to get through another night. Could you live like that if you wanted to? Tears welled up in her eyes, and she sobbed quietly for a few minutes before gathering her strength. Her expression was complete. I've already lost you, haven't I? I didn't answer, and she straightened her shoulders, looked me in the eyes, and began. It probably doesn't matter anymore, but I'm going to tell you anyway. I grew up poor, and the expression trailer park trash perfectly describes my childhood. My mom left when I was old enough to remember, so I was raised by my dad and 2 older sisters. I was born when both my parents were in their early 30s. My sisters were teenagers when I was born. My father was an alcoholic and never once in his life told me he loved me. She sighed as she remembered. He eventually died of liver disease when I was 18. By that time, my sisters had their own families. One was married for the second time, the other for the third. So, as you can imagine, I didn't have any good role models in my life. Then I met Jerry. I didn't love him, but I respected him and knew he would take care of me. I just knew that in time it would grow into love. Things were fine until he got that job. I was bored and lonely. He persuaded me to enroll in a nursing program at a local college to keep me busy. I don't think he expected me to finish the program and continue my education to become a registered nurse. But for the first time in my life, I had a goal and a valuable profession. Working in the emergency room paid the most, so that's where I got a job. The work was intense, demanding, and left no time to think about my life. Jerry was making good money, and I put most of my paychecks in the bank, planning to use the money for a down payment on a house. Everything was fine until they changed my work schedule. Now that he was home, I wasn't home. I had friends who tried to talk me out of staying home and persuaded me to go out with them for a drink or to dance. I still wore my rings and no one touched me, but it was a way to escape the boredom. I know it doesn't matter now, but before I met you, I was planning to leave Jerry. And then I fell in love, 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 and couldn't live without you. When you kissed me for the first time, I knew it was over between me and Jerry. I still respected him, but I could never love him. So I hired a lawyer and started filing papers. I didn't rush, even though I wanted to get to know you better. I didn't want to start a relationship with someone until I was sure. I don't expect you to believe me, but I've never slept with another man before you. You're the second man in my life, and that's the truth. She took out some documents. Look at the date. They should have been filed months ago. I just didn't know how to tell him, and the guilt was eating me alive. That's why I wanted to wait, dear. I may not be the best person since I slept with you and loved you while I was still married, but I would never have taken your ring until I was a free man. And I was going to tell you very soon. But I wanted to wait until I moved, and to be honest, I was going to lie a little about the timing. She convinced herself not to wait. You know, I believe almost everything you tell me, Mel, but there are still a few painful moments. First, when you realized how you felt, you should have broken up with him right away. Instead, it seems to me that you stayed with Jerry as a backup plan in case I wasn't right for you. And you continued to sleep with him even when you were sleeping with me. How do you explain that to yourself, or to me? But the most important thing for me is that even if we're together, I'll still have to travel for work. What will happen when you feel lonely? Will you go out with your friends and maybe end up in the same situation again? Will I be like Jerry, hiding in car parks to kill your new lover? As I spoke, her tears grew heavier and heavier. I exhaled, trying to focus. It all comes down to trust, Mel. If I get married, it will only be to a woman I trust with all my heart and soul who will always and forever look out for our best interests. And you're not that woman right now. To be honest, I doubt you ever will be. But I'll offer you a deal. Get a divorce. Wait a while, then call me if you're still interested. Maybe we can start over. We'll see. That was it. The final act. It took her 10 minutes to pull herself together. She wanted a kiss, but I refused. I hugged her, and she pressed herself against me so tightly that I thought I would have bruises. She pushed me away, snorting. I understand, Jess. I really do. And even if you don't care about my promises right now, I'll tell you one thing. It doesn't matter if we get back together or not, you'll never, ever find a woman who loves you more than I do. And one day, maybe many years from now, even if we're not together, I'll find a way to prove it to you. She turned and walked away without saying a word. After that, we only spoke twice. I was too angry, and she was too tearful to have a rational conversation. But she was determined to try. Eventually, she gave up on direct contact and started emailing me about once a week. She tried to be optimistic and chatty, but for at least 3 months, all her emails ended with her asking me to give her another chance. I replied occasionally if she brought up a painful issue. She wrote to me about going to therapy and how it was helping her. She even persuaded Jerry to go with her twice, and his only comment was that it was enlightening. She started writing less frequently, maybe twice a month, and finally, after 7 months, she stopped. I still have her last letter and can't bring myself to delete it. My dear Jess, I know you're annoyed by my vague expressions, but this will be my last letter to you, so I'm going to say what I feel, even if you don't like it. Today, I received the papers. I am officially free again. The second best thing that ever happened to me, the first will always be meeting you, was going to therapy. I figured out who I really am. I shouldn't have married Jerry, but I was selfish and looking for a way out of my unhappy life. I was too young, too immature, too stubborn to enter into an adult relationship. Oh, I did everything I wanted, but my heart was never really in it. Even without you, my marriage would have fallen apart sooner or later. I think it was inertia and fear that kept me with him. The time I spent with Dr. Chu taught me to give up my crutches and stand on my own 2 feet for the first time in my life. Jerry was shocked when I told him I didn't want anything from our joint property and sent him a check to reimburse him for my education expenses. I owed him a lot, and even more. We didn't part as friends, but I don't think he hates me that much now. Come to think of it, it's kind of funny. Remember how I lied to you about living with 2 nurses and not having a boyfriend? That's how I live now. I share a 1-room flat with 2 nurses. It doesn't bother me, though, because now I'm independent, but I can't go back to an empty flat. In honor of my divorce, I want to give you a gift. I'm letting you go. Dr. Chu helped me realize that if I were in your shoes, I would have a hard time trusting you. That's why I'm letting you go. I hope you have a good life and find a woman who will love you as much as I loved you and still do. Mel, I stared at the screen for a long time, my finger hovering over the delete button. I didn't want to read it again. It was too painful. Instead, I saved the message, so I wandered through life without a goal. If it weren't for my job, I probably would have lost myself completely. Almost 10 months passed before I went on a date. She was a beautiful woman, the sister of a contractor I worked with a lot. She was witty, articulate, and seemed to enjoy pressing herself against me when we danced. I really enjoyed that evening, but in the end, we both realized there was no spark between us. We went on 2 more dates before she found someone else, and we parted ways. During that time, I saw Mel twice. Once, while sitting at a traffic light, I saw her through the window of a small bistro. She was with a group of women, smiling and chatting. I sat there for so long that the guy behind me honked his horn to tell me to move on. Mel turned around at the sound and looked me straight in the eye as I drove away. The next time we met was at a club. I was on my second date with Tina, and we had just sat down at a table when I noticed her sitting across the room with 4 friends. She must have felt my gaze because she looked up and saw me. Time stood still as we stared at each other. About 30 seconds passed before she burst into tears and ran out of the club. Her friends ran after her, all except one who stopped at my table. "You bastard! Did you enjoy rubbing up against another woman? What's wrong with you?" I was actually completely calm. "Hi, Gwen. I don't want to belittle your point of view, but I don't shove it in anyone's face. Mel and I have been together for almost a year. It's a pretty small town. We were bound to meet sooner or later. Tell her I'm sorry if I hurt her, but it's time for her to move on. Good night, Gwen." I turned to Tina, ignoring her. She stood there for a few minutes, frowning, then walked away, muttering "asshole" under her breath. Tina, of course, wanted to know the whole story, and I told her. She looked at me and sighed. "You can convince yourself that it's over, but I saw the look on your face when you saw her. Even now, as we're talking, you're watching the door like a hawk, waiting for her to come back. And she still loves you. Otherwise, why would her ex make her cry after almost a year apart? You need to find out." I didn't pay any attention to her words. We dated for a while longer until she met someone she liked. Jerry started going to my cousin's bar. It put us on equal footing. It was the only place Mel didn't go anymore. He was a really nice guy. When we became friends, the guy started teasing him about trying to kill me. I told him to back off. The truth was on his side. If he hadn't been so drunk, he would have been much more accurate, and I would have been nothing but a memory. One evening after a few beers, he suddenly asked me a question. "Do you miss her?" I knew who he was talking about. There was no point in trying to confuse him. "Every day," he sighed. "Me too, but not every day. Only sometimes when I see mutual friends or drive past places we used to go to. I've kept in touch with her all these years. You know, the other day I ran into one of her nurse friends, one of the few I liked, and we talked for a few minutes. She said that Melody is called a nun because she doesn't want to date men. She blamed you for that, not me. She said you spoiled her so much that she can't bear the thought of being intimate with another man. She also told me she's seeing a therapist, but I'm sure you already know that. One of her assignments was to write a letter of apology to everyone she's hurt. In the letter, she called it Exorcising Demons. Do you have anything like that?" I admitted that I did, but didn't go into details. Well, I remembered the good times too. In the end, she got up, admitted her guilt, and even gave me back the money I had spent on her nursing degree. I hope she finds someone who will treat her well. I muttered. Jerry was lucky. On the day his divorce was finalized, one of the dispatchers at his work asked him out on a date. She was a few years older, a military widow with a 14-year-old son and a 12-year-old daughter. They were made for each other, shared the same views and beliefs, and he got along great with her kids. He even became an assistant coach for her softball team. He even talked me and my cousin into being their sponsors. We took half the bar, went to a few games and cheered her on, calling her by name, which embarrassed her. But the hug she gave him was sincere, and he looked so proud that you could burst with happiness. We were already planning his bachelor party. I was happy for him, and sad looking at the girls playing, wondering if I would ever be able to sit in the stands and cheer for my child. My chances were getting slimmer and slimmer. I was 32 years old. My clock was ticking. So I laid another brick, immersing myself completely in the business and developing it. However, there comes a point when the market becomes saturated. I was taking on more work than we could handle, even after new bricklayers joined us. My grandmother and sister often told me this. Let someone else get the contract, Jess. Work with what you have. If you don't, the quality will suffer, and that's a death sentence in this business. Think about Papa. Do you want his life's work to disappear? It made sense. I stopped taking new orders and even handed over a few small projects to competitors who I was sure could handle them. I got my business back to where it was, but my personal life was in turmoil. I met Becky in college when she asked me to come in and offered me a job. She had emailed me using her married name, so I was surprised to see her. She had put on a little weight but was still attractive. By her own admission, She had not only achieved great success in her career, but was also happily married. According to Becky, her husband was a handsome man with 7 zeros in his bank account. She held his hand as she told me this, and he didn't seem embarrassed at all. He was probably 10 years older than her, and they had just had their first child. Everything they wanted had been planned down to the last detail, including a small stone playhouse. She wanted it built like a Scottish shepherd's cottage she had seen on their honeymoon. We talked, and I agreed to take the job if I could fit it into my schedule. I took on 2 apprentices and a foreman and set to work on the fence and the private walls. I did all the preparatory work, marked out the lines, and selected the stones. She wanted local field stone, which was difficult to find as there were no suppliers in the vicinity. I was lucky. I bought several existing walls on the estate and carefully marked each stone so that I could reassemble them in the new location. There was also a stone chimney on the site, the last remnant of the previous house. I walked over, looked at it, and saw an example of the finest stonework. Every stone, right down to the hearth, was perfectly crafted. It made such an impression on me that I asked Becca to come and look at it and explained my idea to her. She agreed immediately. I built her a stone patio with a fireplace in the center and half walls that tapered upwards to reflect the heat onto the seating area. It was the perfect place for cool autumn evenings. A few years later, she sent me a photo of her 3 children and their friends sitting in front of the fireplace roasting marshmallows while snow fell around them. An unexpected bonus appeared when I dismantled the fireplace and discovered a hiding place under the largest stone. At the time, this was a fairly common practice, the only logical way to store valuables. In those days, fire was much more dangerous. There was a wooden cigar box with a half-empty bottle of whiskey, preserved because it had been stored cork-side down, 2 love letters from the 1870s, and an engagement ring. In a small bag were 2 silver dollars and some loose change. The letters were from his beloved, for whom he had bought the ring, but who had died in a fire before their wedding. Technically, the ring belonged to me, as I had bought it, but I gave it to his heirs, who argued over it for some time and then donated it to the local historical society. It was written about in the newspapers, and a wave of fireplace excavations swept through the neighborhood. If anyone found anything, it was done quietly. After I finished the project, Becca invited me to a party to show off my work. I went, mostly for business reasons. After all, most of their friends were quite wealthy. I met a few people and ended up next to Becca at the end of the party. "I still talk to her sometimes," she said abruptly. I realized she was talking about Cindy. I hadn't thought about her in years. Without asking me, she pulled up some photos on her phone. Cindy had cut her hair much shorter than she had in college and had probably gained 30 pounds. It didn't look too bad on her tall frame, but the tone I remembered was long gone. In one of the photos, she was standing next to a man who was a couple of inches shorter than her. They were hugging and smiling at the camera. "Her second husband," said Becca. "The first one was a total loser because they both had affairs. She met David a year later when he brought a client to her. They went for coffee, then on a date that led them to the altar. She also went to a therapist and told him the whole truth about you, about her first husband, and about how she didn't consider herself a good wife. After a long engagement, he convinced her that he was willing to take a chance and trust her because he had no other choice. He simply couldn't imagine life without her. The next day, they eloped. It's been just under 2 years and they're still together. I believe that this time it will work out for them." I think I surprised her when I said I was happy for her. Later, I thought about it and decided that I was genuinely happy for her. Obviously, it took her years to get herself together, and I hoped it was worth it. As for me, I stopped dating men while I tried to figure myself out. I couldn't allow myself to get involved with anyone while the ghost of Melody still haunted me. On a whim, I sent her an email. "Mel, I just want you to know that I wasn't trying to make a move when I saw you at the club. I didn't mean to hurt you or make you feel uncomfortable. It was a complete accident. I didn't know you were there. If it's any consolation, my evening was ruined too, Jess." She replied the next day, "I'm sorry I ruined your evening. I had no right to do that. I know it's over between us. I know we'll never be together. But I can't stop loving you. I've stopped trying. Time is supposed to heal all wounds, but it only makes me miss you more. I got an offer from another hospital that's far enough away that I won't run into you. I think I'm going to take the job and start over. Maybe then I'll heal. I wish you all the best, Mel. P.S. If you ever want to talk, just write," I asked. We didn't see each other often, but if moving would help her, I was willing to do anything. Maybe then one of us would be happy. And so there we were, swaying to the music. The feeling was eerily familiar and yet completely new. Jerry bribed the orchestra, and they played 3 slow songs in a row. I wanted to leave after the first one, but she wouldn't let me. I thought about making her leave, but I didn't. When it was finally over, she grabbed my hand. Will you sit with me for a while? Please. If you have to, I'll get down on my knees and beg. The thought of her putting us both in an awkward position made me agree. She led me to a small table in the far corner of the room, far enough away from the group that we could talk. She tried to make conversation, and I let her talk for a minute before stopping her. What do you really want to say, Mel? Stop beating around the bush, just say it. She lowered her head for a second, then looked at me. I had never seen such a determined expression on her face. I can answer that question with one word. You. I want you back. I've tried, Jess. I've really tried, but I can't let you go. I can't forget you. I can't stop loving you. I can see it in your eyes. You still care about me. I know you're not seeing anyone. My friends tell me that every time they see me. Why? You have everything. You're good-looking, you have good values, a great job, a bright future. I'm sure you've had plenty of people chasing after you since we broke up. You could have had your pick, but you turned them all down. I think I know why. I can tell you why I haven't found anyone else. First of all, I didn't want anyone else. I thought about dating someone a couple of times, but I looked at them and thought about how they would compare to you. And I turned them down. I never stopped loving you. I didn't even try to pretend. Why don't we start over? I think you'll see that I've changed a lot. I'm begging you. Give me one chance. Let's go on one date, and if I feel like it's not right, I'll never bother you again. Think about it and call me. My number's the same. Thanks for listening, and thanks for the dance. It means a lot to me. She jumped up, kissed me on the cheek, and left. I watched her talk to Jerry and Anna, hug them both, and then disappear through the door. Jerry came over and sat down. Well? Well? Don't be an idiot. Are you going to give her another chance? You have to. You deserve it. I looked at him as if he had just turned green and started speaking a foreign language. He just sighed. It's up to you. One more thing I wanted to tell you. Since the day she met you, we haven't been together. She apologized for that in her letter. She said she caught something at work and that she needs 6 months before she can have sex again, and that she needs to get tested to make sure she's healthy. I should have been angry, but by the time she told me, I had already forgotten about it. I guess deep down I never loved her either. Not the way I should have. Now go and congratulate us again before we leave. Niagara Falls, can you believe it? I wanted to go somewhere warm, and she wanted to go there. I have a feeling that Anna always gets what she wants. She wanted me, and she got me. She insisted that I bring you both here. She can be very persuasive. I like that. I thought about it for about 2 weeks. In the neighboring town, concerts were held on Fridays in the summer on the lawn of the old courthouse. Blues, folk, rock, and country to relieve the boredom. That weekend, a blues duo, a man and a woman with the memorable name Freeman Feelbad Jr. and Sweet Thing, were performing. I had heard them before, and they were very good. I called Mel and asked if she wanted to go. There was a long pause, and I thought she had hung up. But then I heard a quiet yes that sounded like a sob, and she hung up. It seemed like a safe choice. Surrounded by lots of people, there was no chance of ending up in an overly intimate situation. I didn't even bother to pick her up. We met at the playground. I arrived early and got a good spot, setting up chairs in advance. She showed up right on time at the place we had agreed to meet. At first, she didn't notice me, and I watched her for a while. She was wearing a pale yellow dress, her long curls glistening in the setting sun. The sight took my breath away. When she saw me, she smiled. She rushed towards me, about to hug me, but stopped. Instead, she timidly touched my hand. We walked around the square until the concert started, looking at shop windows and watching people. I bought 2 glasses of red wine, which she loved, so we could sip it while listening to the music. The duo was very good, professional. The guy was older, around 40, and she was in her early 30s. Their voices blended very well, and he was a slide guitar virtuoso. Their jokes between songs were funny, and there was something for everyone in their repertoire. We laughed at the humorous songs, but when the guy sang a song about a woman who had cheated on him, there was pain in his voice. Mel tensed up and looked at me, blushing. The next song, a duet about rekindling a romantic relationship, brought a smile to her face. At 9 o'clock, the concert ended. She stood there while I cleared away the chairs and looked at me longingly. Thanks for the evening, Jess. It's not over yet. Not if you don't want it to be. I'm starving. Do you want to go to Yanni's for pizza? Tears glistened in her eyes as she took my hand. It was one of our favorite restaurants when we were together. Yanni's was located in the square and served Greek and Italian cuisine. On concert nights, they stayed open an hour longer and did good business. I did the stonework in their summer dining room. Yanni personally served us, not even letting us order. Ah, young lovers. I'm afraid you've forgotten your old friend. Nice to see you again. One pizza from Yanni's coming right up. A large pizza, half of which was anchovy, mine, and the other half mushroom, hers. We ate and put the leftovers in a box. I walked her to her car. Thanks for the evening, Mel. I had fun. She had been holding my hand since we left the restaurant. Without letting me say a word, she hugged me tightly, kissed me on the cheek, and jumped into her car. I stood there watching her taillights disappear, wondering what it all meant. We went out 2 more times to a silly romantic film that gave her an excuse to hold my hand and snuggle up to me while she sniffled. Then we spent a day at the local fair. She made me walk with her through all the exhibits, admiring the preserves and baked goods, laughing at the exotic vegetables. She stopped in front of a huge display of patchwork quilts. There were more than a dozen of them, from traditional to modern, all works of textile art. Tears welled up in my eyes again, and I remembered something. One evening, when we were cozily settled in my new flat, she showed me a photo of a patchwork quilt in one of her magazines. I've always wanted to learn how to do that. Why? Because, silly me, I want to sew a quilt for all my children, something durable that they can pass on to their children, and they to our great-grandchildren. She realized what she had said and looked at me nervously. I smiled. How many quilts are we talking about? She smiled, glad I wasn't angry. Oh, at least 3. Maybe more if I'm lucky. She laughed when she saw my stunned expression and sat back down at the table, leafing through the pages. Back in the present, I said nothing, but took her hand and squeezed it gently, took the card from the display case and put it in my pocket. Quilting Enthusiast Club. Join us and learn the art of quilting. We offer classes, workshops, and soon you'll be sewing with confidence. Besides, it was her birthday soon. I thought it would be the perfect gift. The candy would be eaten, the flowers would wilt, but a new skill would stay with her forever. We rode the rides, at least the ones she let me ride. I watched her ride the scariest ones myself. I mean, everyone's afraid of something, right? She thought it was funny that a seasoned veteran was afraid of a small, old roller coaster. She had her own fears, the main one being thunderstorms. When she was 6, she was almost struck by lightning. It hit the ground 3 meters away from her, and she and her friends lost consciousness. Now she stayed indoors, away from windows, and trembled until the storm was over. Holding her in my arms helped a little. We kissed for the first time while sitting and watching the fireworks we set off every evening during the fair, huddled together in the stands of the arena. It just happened. Neither of us planned it. She said something, and when I turned to answer, our lips seemed to find each other on their own. It felt like it lasted for hours, but it was probably only 10 or 15 seconds. We pulled away and looked at each other, our faces showing surprise. We didn't say a word to each other for the rest of the evening, and when I drove her home, she just got out of the car and went into the house. We didn't see each other for almost 3 weeks. We didn't avoid each other. I was still trying to catch up on work. We were behind schedule again because of the weather, and it took us so long to catch up. We talked on the phone a few times, but she seemed distant. I began to wonder if the kiss had been a mistake. I called home and told my family that I had finished the project and was coming back on Thursday. They seemed relieved, but worried that I was working too much and that it was wearing me out. I sighed and threw my bag of dirty laundry in the hallway. I'd do it later. First, I wanted to take a shower, and as quickly as possible. The only thing I'd changed since buying the flat was the bathroom. It was bigger now, and the shower was big enough for 4 people. It had 6 jets that could be turned on simultaneously, individually or in any combination. Full stream, massage pulses, or a gentle mist. When I ordered it, my first thought was how much Mel would like it. The renovation was only finished 2 weeks after we broke up. When you live alone, especially if you've lived alone for a long time, you don't usually think about what to wear when you leave the house. I thought I heard a giggle. It was Mel sitting on the bed. What, how, why? A smile spread across her face. What? Because your mom told me you'd be home today. How? You didn't make me give you the keys, and why? Because I want to tell you something. Now get dressed and come out to the living room. She left the bedroom, sensing my gaze, looked back over her shoulder and smiled. One more idea. Stay where you are and I'll join you. The thought made me jump to my feet. No, I hissed. I'll be right out. I grabbed my shorts and t-shirt, wanting to relax. It took a few minutes. When I came out, she was sitting in a rocking chair looking out at the backyard. Turning to me, she gave me her beautiful smile. I need to tell you something, and I want you to not interrupt me. I want to tell you everything before I lose my nerve. Please. I nodded and sat down on the sofa she had insisted on putting in the room. I had already thought about changing the furniture when we broke up, but it fit well in the room and was comfortable. I preferred to sit in my chair most of the time. Every time I sat down on the sofa, images of us hugging or making love flashed through my mind, and eventually, I started to move. I know that the last few times we talked, I wasn't myself. It reminded me of what I lost, of what I want back. I want you back. I want you to chase me around the house like you used to, until I get tired of playing and let you catch me. I want to take the air mattress out into the yard, lie down on it like we used to, look at the stars, cuddle up together, and then make love. I want you to love me again. She fell silent, gathering her thoughts. I started to speak, but she raised her hand. Wait, I'm almost done. And then I realized something. You already love me. I know it. You know it. Everyone we know knows it. Love isn't our problem. Trust is our problem. I lied to you in the most terrible way. It took me a while, but now I realize how much I hurt you. So I had to find a way to earn your trust back. Here's what I came up with. Let me come back. You have security cameras, add more. Put them all over the house. That way, when you're not there, you can watch the footage and see what I'm doing. Put a GPS tracker on my car, and you'll know where I am and where I've been. I did some research online. We can buy a personal tracker, like the ones criminals wear on their ankles. This model is a bracelet. Again, you'll be able to know where I am at any time. She lowered her eyes and her face turned red. If that's not enough, I'll wear a chastity belt. I checked, they make them. You can lock me in when you leave and let me out when you come back. I'll do all that just to prove you can trust me. Wow. Mel had obviously thought this through. Unfortunately, she had missed one thing. I explained it to her as gently as I could. First, let me thank you for thinking about how we can be together. For being willing to do everything you've said. But it will never work. Tears welled up in my eyes, and I raised my hand when she tried to speak. Now it's my turn. Listen to me. Everything you want to do is what you shouldn't do. If we do this, you won't be a partner in a relationship, you'll be a slave. While some things may seem fun from a playful perspective, you can't live like that all the time. Oh, I'm sure you'll try, but sooner or later you'll start to hate it. I know I would. None of this builds trust, it does the opposite. If I have to put in so much effort, it only reinforces the idea that you can't be trusted. I can't live like that. Deep down, you know it. Tears streamed down her face. She stood up and crawled towards the door. I caught her and pulled her back onto the sofa. She buried her head in my shoulder and cried for several minutes. Is it over? Quite the opposite, baby. I think this is just the beginning. What you did today, what you were willing to do, took a lot of courage. That's what makes me think we can make it work. Let's not rush things and build on what we've already done, okay? She lifted her head and smiled. She reminded me of the sun peeking out after a heavy storm. Really? Yes, sweetheart, really. The next morning, I was going to take her out for breakfast and then to her flat to pick up her clothes. She was working 2 shifts today to help a friend. Then she was going home for the weekend. I met her flatmates and understood why she was thinking about moving. Amanda was a tall blonde. She was good-looking, but she couldn't compare to Melody. She had been married twice, divorced twice, and both times it was because of infidelity. The last time she had a woman, she was a little in love with Mel. Beth was red-haired and attractive when she smiled. She hadn't cheated on her husband, but she had anger issues. He put off the wedding until she got help and she lied to him, saying she had gone to anger management. After the wedding, she turned into what her ex described as a screaming bitch that the devil kicked out of hell because even he couldn't stand her. He chose the path of irreconcilable differences because it was the easiest path, and in this case, the right one. She was surprised. even though he had begged her to seek help until the day he filed for divorce. She did not take it well and ended up with a restraining order requiring her to stay 150 meters away from him at all times. She went through this twice before the judge got tired of it and sent her to jail for the weekend. She begged for counseling, got it, but after 3 sessions of listening to her scream, the counselor recommended divorce. It was sad, and he promised he would drop the divorce if she sought help. Of course, she didn't seek help. Her idea of revenge was to do it to everything that moved and tell him about it. By that point, he didn't care anymore because he had met someone else. The funny thing is that she's now in therapy because the hospital told her it was either that or unemployment. No one wants a nurse with that attitude toward patients. They didn't hesitate for a second. As soon as Mel closed the door, they pounced on me like rabid hyenas. So you're the guy who messed with her head. I know guys like you. You can't or won't forgive. Your precious pride won't let you. In the end, you'll make her jump through hoops until she gets tired of you, and then you'll dump her again. You bastard. I know my jaw dropped. I'd never seen anyone spew venom like that. She must have been having one of those days when she needed to vent. I made a mental note never to turn my back on Beth. Amanda was no better. If you hurt her, I swear to God it'll be the last thing you ever do. She deserves better. She deserves to find someone who can truly love her, not some jerk who's going to dominate her for the rest of her life because she made a mistake. She probably would have said more, but I'd heard enough. My good mood had long since evaporated. Listen, bitches. First of all, this has nothing to do with Mel and me. And if you think she's going to be with you, think again. Mel is trying to be tolerant. But the fact that you're sleeping with her is equivalent to me ever loving you. That's not going to happen in this lifetime. I turned to Beth. And you. I can understand Amanda a little. She's in love, or maybe just really attracted to him. But you have no excuse. You just don't want anyone to be happy, that's all. Your husband must be a saint to have put up with your crap for so long. I was on a roll. Looking back, I can say that maybe I should have been a little quieter, but it felt good to vent my emotions, especially at bitches who didn't give a damn about you. So go to hell, both of you. I don't give a damn about your problems. Right now, we need to deal with our own past. Don't expect an invitation if we decide to get married. Of course, you're welcome to come, but seeing your faces when I say my vows will be just lovely. Mel heard the last sentence of our conversation and froze like a deer in the headlights. Amanda noticed her and immediately fixed her gaze on her. I hope you were listening, Mel. This guy isn't going to take you back. He's just playing with you, waiting for you to calm down so he can hit you where it hurts. I've met guys like that, sweetheart. Did you notice how often he says, if? My second husband was just like that, too proud to forgive a mistake. Let me tell you straight, you idiot. Pride won't love you back, kiss you and hug you when you're feeling down. At that moment, I was beside myself with rage. It's true, Amanda. It's true. Pride won't let you do those things, but pride will let you look at yourself in the morning, confident that you're true to your beliefs. Pride will also let you walk down the street and look other people in the eye for the same reason. I often thought that the old saying about pride was wrong. Pride doesn't come before a fall, it comes after it. When you find yourself in the mud and everything you wanted, believed in, and loved has been taken away from you, pride will lift you up. Pride will make you live according to your principles. It may keep you awake at night, but it will make you realize that insomnia is quite tolerable. As interesting as this conversation is, Mel is ready, and we're going. I took her by the hand and pulled her out the door. Never in my life have I been so happy to leave a place. Mel was silent on the way to the car. When we got home, she put her suitcase in the boot instead of taking it with her. I was confused. Mel, dear, let's take your suitcase into the house. There's no need to carry it around town. It might get stolen. It'll be here when you get back in the evening. She didn't look me in the eye. I think I'll pass. I'm going to be really tired, so I think I'll just go home and go to bed. I need to think without any distractions. This hit me hard. What's wrong, Mel? 3 hours ago, you were complaining that you wanted to go volunteer, and then you changed your mind. You even tried to find someone to take your place. And now, because of the rantings of a few seriously agitated women, after yesterday and this morning, you don't want to spend time with me. Fine. Find someone else, but be careful. I've learned to live without you. If you start acting passive-aggressive, that'll be the last straw. And before you go, give me back my key. I think she realized then that she had made a serious mistake and tried to fix it, but I was far from reasonable. To hell with it all. After we finally get back together, will she want to come back? She's done. I'm done with her. I'm fine without her. Of course you don't. I missed her more than I did before we first broke up, and I was angry at myself for letting myself believe it. Work was my consolation. You have to be careful with big rocks. Broken fingers taught me that. So I worked, trying to make up for lost time until the cold weather set in. I hadn't been home in 3 weeks and took only one day off to do laundry and check on the house. I was a little surprised to see her car in the driveway. I was even more surprised when Mel ran out of the house and lunged at me, knocking us both to the ground. She grabbed me tightly and muttered something incoherent. She was quite strong, but she didn't make a living lifting rocks. I was tired of being gentle, so I took her hands and pinned them behind her back. "Shut up!" I had never raised my voice to her before, and it shocked her into silence. I took advantage of this and stood up, leaving her on the ground. I left her lying onto the ground, whimpering like a wounded animal, deciding to leave her there. I was about to close the door when her whimpering turned into a scream. Although I didn't want anything to do with her, I couldn't bear the sound of her pain. I went back and tried to lift her up, but she wouldn't move, so I picked her up and carried her to the door. She wrapped her arms around my neck, tears streaming down her cheeks, and buried her face in my neck. I put her down on the sofa, not very gently, and went to get some water. "Drink," I said, sitting her up straight. She drank the water and looked at me with huge eyes. "How did you get here?" I asked when she fell silent. She started to speak, but incoherently, rambling. I raised my hand and she immediately fell silent. "Try again. Answer in simple words. Take your time and tell me the truth. One lie and I'll never speak to you again. Start." She lowered her head and spoke so softly that I almost asked her to speak louder. "I broke the window. I replaced it right away. I knew where you kept the spare keys and used them. That night I came home after my shift, had a terrible fight with Amanda and Beth, and they kicked me out. I could have gone to a motel, but I ran here like a wounded animal. Because I was a wounded animal, destroyed by my own actions. I just wanted to be near you, to beg you to take back your love for me. You weren't there, and you didn't answer my text messages, or emails. I felt safe here, so I stayed and waited for you to come home. If you want me to leave, I'll leave." She looked completely broken. Kicking her out would be like beating a puppy. "Well, not now. I need to think about it, and I'll need your help. Order a pizza. I'm starving. I'll be back after my shower." Her eyes lit up with hope, but my gaze dampened it a little. When I came out of the shower wearing sweatpants, I noticed that she looked fresher, with minimal makeup and her hair neatly tied back in a ponytail. She looked younger. The pizza saved me from the conversation, and Mel grabbed it and took it to the kitchen. By the time I paid, she had already set the table and there was a glass of wine next to the plate. I gave her back the wine. "Water is fine for now. I want to keep a clear head." She nodded, poured us both a glass, and left the wine. I noticed how she ate, taking small bites and glancing at me from time to time. She seemed a little thinner than I remembered. "Are you on a diet?" She shook her head. "I just don't feel like eating lately." I nodded and ate another piece of pizza, thinking. I really didn't know what to do. We were a pretty messed up couple. We finished, she cleared the table a little, and we sat down in the living room to talk. I noticed that she was disappointed that I hadn't sat next to her, but had chosen the armchair opposite her. "Tell me the truth, Mel. I know you want us to be together again." "I want us to be together again, but how? How can I trust you? What can you say or do to get us back to where we were before everything fell apart? Any suggestions?" She had a plan. "Couples therapy. Pam from work told me about it. She was having problems with her boyfriend right before their wedding, and they went there to see if they could save their relationship. She said it helped them both realize they weren't ready for marriage. They postponed the wedding for a year, but she says it was worth the wait because when she walked down the aisle and saw him, they both knew it was the right thing to do. I even get a discount because of my job. Don't you want to try? I think it's the only way to get over what I've done. I want to try. I'm begging you. There's a chance we'll realize we'll never be together, but I'm willing to accept that. This half-life is killing me. Promise you'll think about it." I realized how much effort it had taken her to say that short speech, and I promised her I'd think about it. She nodded, looking half hopeful. She got up and I heard her rummaging around in her bedroom. A few minutes later, she came out dragging a suitcase behind her. Can you help me load it into the car? What the hell? She's sitting in my house begging me to go with her to see a family counselor. And then she's running away again? Well, where are you going? Mel looks surprised. To a motel, I guess. I know you don't want me here right now. I think I'll look for a flat next week. I picked up the suitcase, surprised by its weight. Instead of heading for the door, I took it to the bedroom, threw it on the bed, and started unpacking. She followed me and watched silently, then asked in a timid voice what I was doing. I'm putting your things away. Do you want me to help you? I can manage without you, but I can't put things where you want them. I picked up one of her thongs and twirled it in my hands. Suddenly, she became embarrassed and snatched it from me. The thing is, she said through her tears, I'll wash them and wear them, but you have to take them off as often as possible. I had never seen a woman cry and smile at the same time. Her face was contorted with all kinds of expressions. I agree, I said quietly, but there will be some rules. I think I'll have some wine. Would you like a glass? She nodded, her hair falling over her eyes. 10 minutes later, she snuggled up to me and took the glass of wine. Mel was silent for a few minutes, enjoying the wine and the moment. Finally, in a voice so soft I could barely hear her, she whispered, Rules? Yes, Mel, the rules. I'd like to say that we'll work things out, but until we sort out our problems, I'm not sure. You'll continue to live with me. You can sleep in my bed if you want. We won't be better off living apart. Make an appointment with a psychologist as soon as possible. Email me the dates, but try to schedule the sessions for Friday evenings so I can work. I want to try, Mel. You know I love you more than anything in the world, but I need to be sure that I can trust you completely in the future. And if for any reason one of us decides it's not working, we'll tell the other right away. Agreed? I expected her to lash out at me, but she said nothing, sipping her wine. I was about to speak, but Mel beat me to it. Yes, with all my heart. And I'll sleep in our bed. Where else would I sleep? In return, I want a few things from you. I want you to relax enough to spend more than one day with me. I want you to promise me that, barring a natural disaster or catastrophe, you'll attend all the sessions. Promise me. I was about to respond when she raised her hand. And one more thing. I want you to think about how I can prove to you how much I love you and that I will always be faithful to you. Whatever it is, I'll do it. But I have my doubts. Maybe someday in the future, I'll ask you to do the same. Deal? Agreed, I said. We didn't make love that night. It seemed wrong. I lay awake wondering if we were on the right path to happiness. I kept my word. On Fridays, I worked half days or not at all, so I could be home for her sessions. The counselor turned out to be a man, which surprised me. I would have bet she would choose a woman. As it turned out, she chose him because he had the highest success rate in helping couples solve their problems than anyone else in his practice. I liked this guy. He was calm, relaxed, and said he preferred minimal drama. Before we left together, we went through one session. In each session, he asked what outcome we wanted to achieve. Our answers were very similar. He was calm, but didn't drag things out, and Mel often cried by the end of the session. I didn't cry, but he was so skilled at pushing my buttons that I wanted to punch him a couple of times. He got Mel to admit what I had suspected. She stayed with Jerry, especially at the beginning of our relationship, as a safety net in case I turned out to be not who I said I was. When she realized she wanted me, she started divorce proceedings but didn't file for divorce. She figured that, until I proposed, she wouldn't be sure of my feelings. I said that was nonsense, and the counselor agreed with me. Is that true, Melanie? In the 6 months you were together, especially after you started staying with him on weekends, you weren't sure he loved you? Even if you refused to have sex with your ex while you were dating Jesse, you still slept in the same bed, hugged, and caressed each other. And when he left, you did the same with Jesse. Yes, you got divorced, but only after you were caught. She almost shouted her answer, surprising us both. You think I don't know what I've done? I betrayed them both, and I ruined any chance of happiness I ever had. She calmed down a little and snorted. I don't think that's necessarily true, Melanie. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here now. However, I believe we've achieved the maximum result in these sessions. We both looked at him in surprise. But we're not healed yet, Melanie exclaimed. No, you're not healed. But with my help, you've come as far as you can. It's obvious that you both still love each other deeply. That was easy to see. You want to stay together to find the happiness you so desperately desire. That goes without saying. It all comes down to trust. Can Jesse trust you? I hope so. Does he trust you now? No. The same goes for you. You're not sure he can survive what you've done, and that at some point he may want revenge. You both need to decide soon whether the work you've done and the pain you've endured are worth it to resolve your issues. I can't do that. I don't have a magic wand that I can wave and declare you healed. All I can do is wish you luck and say this. I think that if you can find the kindness in each other, you will never regret it. And if you can't, you need to accept the loss and walk away. I wish you all the happiness in the world. We found ourselves at the door of his office and looked at each other in surprise. Melanie asked, "What do we do now?" I didn't know what to say. For 3 months, we tried to move on. There were days of happiness, and then something would trigger one of us and life would become tense for a day or two. We quickly became disappointed, and cracks appeared in our relationship. I often thought about her when I was at work. She called me every evening, which I looked forward to, and then sent me photos from our house to prove she was there. It quickly became tiresome. "Enough," I said to her one evening. "Stop sending me photos. And stop locking yourself in the house every night. It's driving us both crazy. Get out of the house sometimes, go out to dinner with your friends, even have a drink with your colleagues. I'll consider you a grown woman who made a mistake and learned from it. If I don't, it won't matter anymore, right?" I think she understood. A few days later, she went to the cinema with her best friend. She loved horror films, which I didn't like at all. And the next evening, she called me to tell me how much fun she had had before getting into a serious relationship. "Thank you, sweetheart, for loving me and trusting me. I love you," she whispered breathlessly. I was pleased and even teased her, saying I was glad I didn't have to drag her to stupid movies anymore. Her old attitude came out. "They're not rubbish. It's an art form that a caveman like you just can't understand. Despite your limited intelligence, I still love you. Good night, sweetheart." But no matter how hard I tried, she could tell that something was holding me back. She became quiet during the last week, and I realized that this could be the beginning of the end. Strangely enough, everything went perfectly at the flea market. Mel loved the smell of incense, and there were small incense burners placed throughout the house. Most of the scents were quite pleasant, so I put up with it. There was a stall with a woman who looked like a poor version of the Voodoo Queen, who had literally hundreds of scents. Mel was running out of supplies, so she asked me to go with her. We both loved it and often spent several hours in the shop. We didn't actually buy much, but every now and then we would stumble upon treasures, at least in our opinion. I watched her flit back and forth, the epitome of grace, smiling and occasionally bringing a stick to her nose. She sensed me looking at her, looked up and smiled. That familiar, joyful smile I loved so much. Then her eyes clouded over and she looked down sadly. At that very moment, I knew that if I didn't change, I would soon lose her. Summer was coming to an end, and as we left, one of those quick seasonal storms broke out with wind and lightning that passed as quickly as it began. The first clap of thunder sounded, and Mel flinched slightly. I instinctively put my arm around her, reassuring her. Fortunately, we were inside, in one of the many halls that seemed endless. We had arrived late, and they were already starting to close. "Wait here, darling. I'll go get the car and pull up to the door." I ran to the car park and was soaked to the skin almost instantly. I thought hard as I waited for my turn to pull up to the door, almost praying that I could overcome my block and love her the way I should. As I pulled up to the house, a song I had always loved came on the radio I was half listening to. "Slow dance, swaying to the music, slow dance." "Just me and my girl," came from the speakers. I looked at the entrance, trying to spot Mel, and from a sticker on the bumper of a small van parked nearby, I guessed it belonged to the incense seller. There were many stickers on the van, but one of them caught my eye and sent a shiver down my spine. Life isn't about hiding from the storm, it's about learning to love dancing in the rain. I understood. What a great way to prove to me that Mel loved me. I opened the door and turned up the volume. I stood in the pouring rain as a lightning flashed and reached out my hand. "I understand, sweetheart. If you really love me, I mean really love me, you'll come out and dance with me. This is our last chance. Please, please, let's dance." I was almost shouting to be heard. Everyone was watching her, wondering what she would do. I know she couldn't see them in the rain, but tears were streaming down my cheeks. She crept towards the door, flinching with every flash, and I stood there, holding her hand, a meter away from her. Mel looked into my eyes, trying to figure out if I was being sincere. She must have gotten the answer she wanted to hear. The song ended after about 90 seconds, and I picked her up and put her in the car. Yes, the song was short, but it said everything that needed to be said. She loved me so much that she was willing to look her greatest fear in the eye to prove it. What better proof could there be? We sat in the car park wiping each other down with tissues from the dashboard, laughing and crying together. Then we drove home and made love. And it was complete, absolute love. 9 months later, I felt weak looking at it. The newest, coolest, and scariest roller coaster on the planet. There were loops, twists, and a steep drop from 325 feet, but I had to do it. So I squeezed her hand tightly as we stood there, ready to buckle up. A week later, after a slow dance in the rain, she told me that one day she would ask me to do something in return to prove my absolute love for her. I agreed immediately, and here's the result. The roller coaster was designed in the shape of a bullet, and the seat was single. She let me go first, holding my hand while I buckled up and secured myself. Then I felt terror as she let go of me and stepped back. "You're not going with me?" For some reason, she smiled and cried at the same time. "I can't." "Why the hell not?" I almost shouted as the ride roared forward and picked up speed. Rule number 3. I read the rules as they passed me. Rule 1. You must be at least 120 centimeters tall to ride this attraction. Rule 2. People with heart or other medical conditions are advised not to ride this attraction. Rule 3. Pregnant women are not allowed to ride this attraction. Wait a minute. What? Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Subscribe to my channel and watch the next video.